Good evening, wrestling fans. You are now tuned in to the PA Power Hour. I am Jeff Upson. I'm going to be alongside Eric Knopsnyder. And Eric, it's hard to believe, but we have regional brackets for next weekend before the super regional tournament coming up in 2 weeks. I mean, there's a lot of good kids that are not continuing on. Eric, you were at the District 5 tournament. How was the broadcast? Did you survive the broadcast? I know it was on the worst network. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the complaint that I got most often was still about the NFHS camera, that it was too far away because, it's one camera covering two mats and not zoomed in at all. And people kept saying, can you zoom it in? It's not on me at all. So no, it was a good time though. And one of the things that I love is I obviously grew up in District 5, and it not nearly the same atmosphere that you normally have for the tournament, but it was so cool because they have a District 5 Hall of Fame induction, and it's a small rural district, so some of the guys going in aren't the household names that you'd have if it was a Whippy or something like that. But a lot of the guys were around my era that were going in, and I went and I talked to a couple of them, and I saw their family members, people that I hadn't seen in 30 years or something. And just, it's a really cool little fraternity, basically, of like a kid that I wrestled a couple times, his family, my family were close. So, it's nice to see those people again.
Yeah, that probably brings back some memories, right? That's pretty cool to see. I'm glad you were able to do that. How was the wrestling? How was the District 5 wrestling? It had to be pretty quick.
Yeah, well, no, actually it wasn't. It was extremely long because they split it into two separate tournaments so that they could get more the parents in there to watch their kids. So it was 106 to 145 in the morning, and then 152 to 285 in the afternoon. So it started at 8 in the morning and didn't end until about after 8 at night. So yeah, okay. It ended up being a long day, but isn't that what wrestling usually is? Like you don't go to a wrestling tournament saying, oh, we should be out of here in about 2 hours.
Well, the new normal seems like, hey, we're getting in and out. I mean, Whippeal sections where they started at 10, true second was done by like 12:31. So it
wow.
was pretty fast, but
yeah. Did you see the bracket or the schedule yet for the Southwest Double A regional?
No. What's it look like?
It says start at 8 in the morning and projected end is 9:45 at night.
9:45. That's good. That's actually not that bad. That's a long day of wrestling, right? And there's only 8 people in the bracket.
What's that?
There's only 8 people in the bracket.
I know, but they're doing the same thing. They're splitting it up into 2 events.
All right. Well, while we're on that topic, I just want to roll. We have a great show for you playing tonight. So if you're watching, you're going to be getting a lot of information pumped at you, a lot of results. We're actually going to have our expert from District 4, Mitch Rupert, coming on to talk a little bit about what he saw. My gosh, District 4 is out of control. Do you see how deep some of those brackets were, Eric?
It's like 126? That was
126,
insane.
120.
Yeah, Cole Bisco taking 4th.
Cole Bisco, right. I know. It's crazy. So I can't wait to talk to Mitch about that. Southwest region, we're going to have War Up on the Whippeal with Greg and I at 7:30 tonight. So we're probably going to glance over some Whippeal stuff because you're going to hear a lot of it when Greg and I do our show. We're going to have Ian Oswalt on as a guest, same with John Altieri from Norwin. So Ian Oswalt won his 4th straight Whippeal title, so we're going to have him on. John Altieri beat Ty Linsenbigler in the finals of the section tournament. That was a number 3 over number 2 in the state. So tonight we're going to talk about everything else that really is going on. And here's the interesting part, Eric. Wrestling's going on today, right now. Well, it's probably over by now, but District 3 had their tournament today, so they had their sections yesterday. District 3 Double A. Now, this is Double A. Double A had their district tournament today. I actually just got the bracket, so that is over. And District 11, Double A and Triple A, had their tournament today. It was Saturday and Sunday. It was split into 2. And I believe that is over now because I did see the final results. Nazareth won that by a few points, actually, over Becca. Some interesting results out of there, so I'm excited to go through those results with you. But let's start with what you are seeing with the Southwest Regional bracket, because the Southwest Regional bracket in Double A, Eric, is pretty stacked, right? Between District 6, District 5, and District 7. You're looking at some very early on matchups between top state-ranked wrestlers. there's a lot, and these brackets just came out. So, Eric, what were your initial thoughts when you saw these brackets from the Southwest region?
Well, I mean, obviously with an 8-man bracket, you don't get that. Normally you're like, okay, we'll kind of ease into this. District champs are probably going to come through with a pin or a major in the first round, and ease into it, and then the matches start getting tougher as you go on. But with this 8-man bracket, I mean, you're just jumping right into it. It's all of a sudden it's a tough go from the start. So like 113 pounds, Callum Bulman, who had probably the biggest match of the District 5 tournament, as he faced Nathan Pileski of North Star in the finals there, 1 versus 7, and Bulman looked really good in that one, 8-3, pretty solid the whole way around. But he's got a decent test here again in Bryce Beatty of Mount Union, and who's number 9 in the state. So you got those two right off the bat. You got Chris Vargo of Bentworth, who is a freshman that we couldn't do. We knew he was good, but they just you didn't have a whole lot of results for him early on. So he's only 22 in the state, but after his Whippeal performance, he's going to be a lot higher than that. I can tell you that. So he's got Pileski in the first round. That's not an easy draw by any means. So, that should be a good first round one.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Chris Vargo. He's a name that we've been hearing for a while coming through the PJW ranks. He was on our top incoming freshman report. He looked great in the Whippeal tournament. Beat Damian Michaels from Elizabeth Ford, who was 25-0 going into that match. So Chris Vargo, he's undefeated, 11-0 coming into the Southwest region. But you said Nathan Pileski, who's 19-1. His only loss was to Callum Bulman of Chestnut Ridge in the district finals. Some other matches that are coming up in the first round: Ty Watson, Hunter Horton from Phillipsburg, Osceola. That's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, Ty Watson was one of your top incoming freshman guys, and he's a solid guy. And Hunter Horton, he's from Tussey Mountain, so you don't hear a whole lot about him. But whenever you've got a guy like that, that Hunter Horton is a really solid guy, and so I'm interested to see how Ty Watson matches up against him.
Well, and you looked at the District 6 tournament. Jackson Arrington is continuing his reign of terror. He pins Zach Whitmer from St. Joseph's. He is now going to be in the top half, 20-0. What do you like about him?
I'm sorry.
About his.
What do I like about
his,
Jackson
his
Arrington?
bracket? Yeah, no, his bracket.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So you're talking about Jackson Arrington's bracket?
Yeah, 132.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't see anybody that Jackson is just right now so far ahead of everybody else. I think the way he's going, I mean, he's just destroying people.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he dominated Zach Whitmer from St. Joseph Academy, who's a 3-time state medalist. Brock McMillan, he kind of had his hands full with Eamon Ole from St. Joseph's Academy. I forget the exact score. It was a decision of some sort, but Brock's a 2-time state champion, and only 13 matches on the year. We say only, but that's actually a lot for comparison to some teams out east. Is he going to have his hands, his hands tested here? Because you got Eamon Ole on the bottom half. Ian Oswalt is right there on the bottom half.
Yeah,
so that could be an Oswalt Ole semifinal, and then a McMillan Oswalt state finals rematch in the regional finals here.
Well, I mean, to me, this is probably the bracket of the tournament. You got Brock McMillan, which is a fantastic start, and then you've got Ian Oswalt, and then you've got Eamon Ole, and then Oswalt in his first round match has Austin Foster of Phillipsburg, who's ranked 8th.
Right.
And you look at District 6, that was so tough there that Noah Teeter, a returning state medalist, didn't even make it out.
Right, that's insane. How did he not make it out?
Well, it's bad luck for him in a way, because he was in a situation where in the District 6 sectional, he was actually leading 5-0 in the final, and Coach Jake Strayer, I understood what he was doing. He's trying to get him to build his lungs up, because Noah's been injured. He hasn't competed as much this season as the rest of the guys on his team. So you want to kind of push him. You obviously want to keep attacking all that, and had him let him up. And he lets Roy Dunn of Westmont up, and then Dunn comes up with a throw, pins him. So it was a match that Teeter was in control of. He was probably going to win that if he rides him out. He was up 5-0, was in total control. Kind of I don't want to say a fluke, but I mean, Dunn, threw him and put him on his back and pinned him. And that just screwed everything up because then Teeter went from the champ, who would have had a pretty good situation, to facing Brock McMillan in the first round of the district tournament. And they actually forfeited that when they just said, you know what, we're not even going to try it with McMillan. We're just going to medical forfeit, go to the consies and try to wrestle our way back. And he came up short there with Austin Foster being in that mix also. So just a really unfortunate and tough road for Teeter, who missed a lot of the season with a knee injury.
And he actually beat Dunn in those wrestlebacks before he lost to Foster. So he did avenge that loss, but still, like you said, it's returning state medalist, right? And he's not the only returning state medalist not going on to regionals. Antonio Emilio from Seneca Valley, he was 8th in state last year. He lost to McCorkle of North Allegheny. Cole Spencer, it was first in that bracket, so he's not making it out. There's quite a few. I wasn't able to obviously analyze the District 11.
It was so hard to catch up with everything. Yeah, it's going on.
Yeah, it was. I mean, today I feel like I just spent all day canvassing brackets and actually the way I did, updating the rankings. The state rankings are essentially done, just minus the District 11 results. But going through all those and looking at the results was really the way to go through it. The interesting thing for me was 189 in the Whippeal, and you looked at all the names there: Shane Kemper, Trent Schulteis, Patrick Kutchember. Now, that was a loaded bracket, but look at it sets up with Schulteis taking 3rd in the Whippeal. He's got a date with Ian Eckenrode, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, that was the regional final last year. Is that right?
You've got such a much better memory than I do on these things, Jeff.
It was definitely.
I know Ian Eckenrode is a really solid guy. I wasn't a state medalist last year, but was a qualifier. I think he might have even been a blood round guy last year. He's really solid. You have him at 11 in the state, and Schulteis was 2 before the rough week that he had.
Yeah, he loses to Kutchember in the section in the District 7 section tournament, and then comes in to the District 7 tournament, and he loses to Shane Kemper. I'm pulling up that score right now for you because I want to make sure I have that right. Kutchember beat him 8-4 in the section tournament, and then Kemper beat Schulteis 4-2. Kutchember beat Kemper 6-0. So you're talking about 3 state medalists, all out of the same district, who are going into the regional tournament. And look at that bracket, with the Southwest region in AA. I mean, it's absolutely stacked at 189. You throw in Ian Eckenrode, as you said, but then you have Miles Bainey as well. Miles Bainey's not too shabby either. This is going to be, I don't know who, because you're going to set up probably a Kutchember, Miles Bainey semifinal match, but then at Kemper and the winner, and even Ashton Dull is not bad at all.
Yeah, Ashton Dull's pretty darn good.
I think he's been wrestling well this year. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, he was on the PA Power kickball team too, so that gets you a bump in the ratings right there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we take bribes, we take anything to get you bumped up. Play on our.
That's how you
team.
got all those T-shirts that you've gotten.
Absolutely. D4. I mean, the D4 wrestling picks. I can't really. I'm repping the D4 wrestling picks because, man, District 4 was stacked this weekend. All right, let's go back to a couple weights here at the Southwest region. You look at 145. Kenny Dushek won the District 7 tournament. That was a pretty deep weight class here. You had Ty Simmerman, returning state medalist. Cooper Warshaw from Richland won out of District 6. So Ty Barish from Beth Center, Cooper Warshaw first round matchup. I like that matchup. I think that's a good matchup. Ty Simmerman's also down there. And then you got Flynn from Forest Hills on the top, Kenny Dushek. Kenny Dushek, I think, is sitting pretty, right? And Ethan Heminger too. I wouldn't, as Mark Billett likes to say, I wouldn't sleep on him either.
Yeah, Heminger is a guy that looked good in the District 5 tournament. I haven't seen him as much. He had an older brother, Austin, who was a 3-time district champ, and he was kind of funky and, could pin anybody from, any position. It seemed like Ethan, I'm not sure quite is that funky, but, he and Simmerman, I think, will be an interesting matchup of styles. And I know I did a story on Cooper Warshall the other day, and he had talked about, once you get, and he's not assuming that he's going to get through this bracket, but you know how it is. You look ahead a little bit and you see the super region, and you have Dushek, you have Zimmerman, you have Warshel, and then you add in Gill and Caden Berger, and all of a
Mm,
sudden somebody's left out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's already a lot of kids left out. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna it's only gonna get smaller from here. We're gonna have a lot of wrestlers done wrestling early, after this weekend, let alone this past weekend. 152, Grant McKay from Laurel, number one in the state by virtue of Eric Gibson not competing in the postseason. He won the District 7 tournament over Justin Ritchie. District 6 was pretty deep here. Hudson Holbay from Westmont Hilltop, he's undefeated, beat Zeke Dubler of Glendale. And Connor Yoder from North Star was the runner-up to Luke Moore. I like that.
That was a really controversial match because Yoder
there?
looked like he had a takedown right at the third period buzzer that would have tied it up. It was tough for me to say. I was all the way across the gym. There was somebody on a mat in front of me. I didn't have a great angle on it, but somebody sent me a picture later that looked like his feet were definitely inbounds and it was a takedown. So
Okay.
I know the North Star folks weren't happy there, that they thought they had a tying takedown against Luke Moore in that one.
Well, he gets to test his hand with in the next round here with Zeke Dubler, and I think you compare it to like 160, for example. Andrew Mcmonagle from Central Martinsburg, he is a freshman, 6-3. I think he started off the year 0-3 and won 6 straight, or he lost a couple. He lost last weekend or this.
Yeah, and one of
yesterday.
those was a disqualification.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, I haven't gotten to see Mcmonagle in person yet, but I've heard a lot about him, that he's really, really good for a freshman. And, the record doesn't show how much of a quality wrestler he is.
Well, he gets a date with AJ Corrado from Burl in the first round.
Tough draw there for sure.
Sorry. Ryan Wyatt from Forest Hills, returning state medalist. He's down on the bottom half. Austin Broadwater from Meyersdale. I feel like he's been around forever. Did he have a brother? Because Broadwater's a name I feel like.
There are like 17 Broadwaters. And it was actually funny. He wore his dad's singlet that his dad wore in high school in the district final last night. So, because I saw it, I'm like, what the heck is that uniform? Like, I haven't seen that uniform before. And it was from 25 years ago.
Wow. So do you think you could still fit in it?
No one wants to see me fit in that.
No one wants to. I mean, we saw you do the Cupid shuffle run, whatever it was called. That was pretty
no
interesting.
one wanted to see that either.
No. What else you like here at 160? You got a couple guys from District 6 that I think can
first
play
off,
spoiler
Trevor
here.
Wyatt from Chestnut Ridge is he's a guy that has the talent. He's been kind of up and down, so he's kind of a wild card for me there. Austin Broadwater really looked solid in the District 5 tournament. He was the 3 seed going in. He looked pretty solid. Was able to beat Wyatt. Was able to beat Colton Furry. So he did a nice job there. And Ryan Wyatt is one of those guys that we've talked about before, how he's really dangerous from any position as well. And I think he's kind of toned it down a little bit this year, where sometimes in the past he'd go for big moves when he didn't really need to. And I think he's gotten a lot better about that this year, where he still has that big move capability, but he's not going to put himself in the danger that he has in the past.
Well, and you look at 160, you have how many state medals? 1, 2, you have 3 state medals. AJ Corrado, obviously state runner-up, but Hunter Weirtosh from Phillipsburg Osceola, he's a returning state medalist. He was 8th in the state last year. He lost to Wyatt, who's a returning state medalist in the District 7 or 6 final. So you've got a lot of top-heavy wrestlers here at 160. I'd like to think AJ Corrado, he's been wrestling really well as of late. Wasn't really tested in District 7 tournament, so it's hard to say, where he stacks up. But I think he looked great in the Westmoreland County finals against Enzo Merlocki. So I like that weight class. I also really like 172, Eric. Malachi Duval, Noah Nibus from Mount Pleasant, first round matchup. I really like that one. Daniel Moore from Chestnut Ridge, Hunter Holbay from Westmont Hilltop. Really good match, but probably one of my favorite ones is Rune Lawrence, the freshman, versus Suds Dubler from Glendale. Man, Rune Lawrence has looked absolutely amazing. He's beaten Ethan Barr twice in a row. He pinned him the last time. This is I really don't know about 172. I mean, Duval is the senior here. He's going to Navy, state medalist. You got to like his experience here, but Rune Lawrence, I mean, I know you're high on him.
I absolutely am. And until I see somebody in Pennsylvania beat Rune Lawrence. I'm going with him in this one. We saw him at Powerade, and we saw the impressive performance he turned in there. Didn't win it, but wrestled really well. Got to the finals. I think to me, yeah, he's shown the ability. Not only can he score, but he's really hard to score on.
Right.
That's the big thing for me. For a freshman, he's really, really hard to score on, and I think that is gives him an edge here. Duval, though, I definitely I think that's a final we're going to see is Duval and Lawrence, and I'm all up for that. I'm down. Put me in.
So, I will be watching. Well, Duval, I mean, two-time state medal, 7th as a sophomore. He was 3rd in the state last year. Let's not forget that. I mean, he pinned Suds Dubler in the finals of the district tournament. I like him. I think he finds a way to win. But man, Rune Lawrence. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Rune Lawrence is gonna have his hands full to get there. But the way he's been wrestling, I mean, I'd favor him over everybody in that bottom half of the bracket. To be honest,
Yeah.
Just the way he beat up Ethan Barr, who's a state qualifier himself. So. Yeah, 172 is probably one of my more favorite brackets. We talked about 189 with Miles Bainey, Kutschember, and Schulteis. But that's a pretty deep weight class. 215, kind of. So you look at 215 and you look at the first round matchup between Dayton Pitzer and Parker Moore. Now that one is interesting for a few reasons. One, Dayton Pitzer, obviously out all of last year, was a state champion as a freshman. But Parker Moore is also a state medalist. He was 6th last year. So you have 2 state medalists going head-to-head in the first round of the regional tournament.
Let me tell you, let's back up a minute to District 6. And I would submit that District 6, 215 was maybe the craziest district weight in the state.
Who won that bracket?
Your boy Briar DeLine.
Who is he?
He was a 160-pounder last year, finished 8th in the district, and he moves all the way up to 215. I talked to Coach John Mikett. He said he just lived in the weight room, busted his butt, said last year he was cutting for the team to get the 160. He said, I'm done with this. I'm just going to gain weight. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to see how I do. He goes out and wins a district title. But the crazy thing about this, so you got a first-round consolation match in District 6 that was a rematch of the Southwest Regional Final last year. It was Tanner DeLuas from Westmont and Parker Moore from Phillipsburg wrestling in the first round of consolations.
Wow.
And these guys were in the regional final last year.
That's insane.
It was just a bizarre bracket. Briar DeLine, goes out and texts Parker Moore. Just a phenomenal showing by him. And, I always talk about, I like those guys who were lightweights, or maybe not lightweights, but middleweights growing up. And then they grow into the really big, 215, 285 categories, but they have those wrestling skills that they developed when they were younger at those lower weight classes. And if you can get one of those guys, I think you got a really high ceiling for that, because a lot of those guys that were big guys growing up don't have kind of that same skill set that somebody who was a middleweight maybe growing up. So, I think that's what you see in Briar DeLine is a guy who, really has that middleweight skill set, but now is up with the big guys, and they're not quite used to seeing that from somebody as powerful as he is now.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of wrestlers in Pennsylvania. I have names and results swirling around in my head. I do not know Briar DeLine. So I do now. I do now. 285. So it's nice to see Jalen Stevens wrestling. He's undefeated. He's a returning 2-time state medalist. Senior, headed to Columbia, so it's nice to see him back in action. But you look at 285 in the Southwest region, there's 3 of the top 5 guys all in that region. Jalen Stevens is number 1. You've got Mitch Miles from Laurel, he's number 4, and Marvin Beatty from Marion Center is number 5, all in the state. Beatty and Miles on the bottom half. But then you throw in Watkins too, who's not too bad. In fact, he's number 8 in the state. So you
Watkins,
got all these guys.
He pushed. Stevens beat him 1-0 in the final. And both of these guys, these are not small heavyweights. I know that they both weighed in over 285, because it's 287 now. And both of them were like I think Stevens was like 285.9 and Watkins was 286 something. Like they're big guys, and they're athletic. it was a fun heavyweight class at the District 5 tournament because Cooper Lingenfelder from Bedford, who didn't make it out because they only have two place winners this year. But I mean, he pushed Watkins too. Like it was a really good tournament, and Stevens, was able to escape from Watkins and then rode him out in the third period. Was really dominant on top. But that was important for me to see because we haven't seen Jalen Stevens wrestle until yesterday. He hadn't wrestled into a second period since the state tournament of last year.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, that was important to see that gas tank to show that he could go 6 minutes. And he did. And he looked really good against a quality guy in Matt Watkins. So, yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a fun weight class here with, as you said, Mitch Miles, who, can pin just about anybody, it seems. And, then you got Watkins and Beatty in the first round, which is a great matchup because Beatty's not a small heavyweight either. I mean, these are some big athletic heavyweights.
There's they got some serious weight on them. So, I agree with you. Seeing Jalen wrestle a full 6 minutes was probably pretty critical considering he had not wrestled one in so long. All right, that's Southwest region. I want to try to get Mitch Rupert on the phone here. I'm going to add him to the call because I got to talk about the District 4 tournament. The District 4 tournament was just out of control with the amount of talent that was there. As you said, Cole Bisco, a guy who we saw at True Power, he ends up in the consolation round. There's a lot of wrestlers here who just, they may not make it out of the region. Mitch, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on, guys?
Awesome. How are you? Hey, I'm going to pull up your face on the screen here so I can. Oh, there you are. People. How are you, Mitch?
I'm doing real well, man. It was a long day Saturday, but it's what we love. You guys do it all the time. You take the long days because it's a lot of fun. You get to work with good kids. There's not a whole lot better jobs than what we get to do.
Now, okay, you've been around District 4 wrestling for a long time now. Has there ever been a year where you've seen the depth that there is this year? I just feel like there's so much depth this year in District 4. Maybe it's just because we're seeing it because it's condensed down, but I mean, it's loaded.
No, because we've actually been talking about maybe the last, 8 to 10 years or so that depth hasn't been there. The top tier talent has always been there in District 4 AA, but we haven't seen that depth where like guys that were finishing third or fourth at regionals end up placing top 6 at states. Like we haven't seen that depth around here in a while. This is probably the best year that I can think of that. And I don't know that it really hit me until I pulled up the district brackets last week and you're trying to make your predictions and you're like, there are some legit good kids. Derek Atherton Ely was a state qualifier last year for Canton. He didn't even make it to the medal rounds at 189 yesterday. I mean, that just speaks to how good or how deep things were yesterday.
And also the future's bright because look at all these young kids. I mean, there's a lot of freshmen in here that were making a lot of noise. Brock Wise from Jersey Shore, he takes a state champion to overtime. Do you think in watching that match that he can get over the hump and potentially win that match?
Well, I said going in because I had a coach text me last week and said kind of what's your big upset for the weekend. And I said, don't sleep on Brock Weiss. I was like, because what I know about this kid, and I haven't seen a ton of him, but he likes to go. He's a goer, and he's not going to give up a ton of points, but he's going to try and make action happen. And I think that's a similar style to what Brandon Wenzel tries to do a little bit. They both want to score a ton of points, but we've seen Brandon this year sometimes get a little gas towards the end of the third period. He's figured some of that out here in the last 3 or 4 weeks, pretty much ever since the Power 8. He's figured that out a little bit. But I thought if he could keep it close, Brock might have a chance to get at him. So I wasn't surprised that it was an overtime match, that it was a good match. I really thought that could happen. Mason Barvitsky from Southern Columbia, he's a kid I really wanted to see because I haven't seen that type of matchup on his resume this year. And I picked him to win the tournament just because of what I know about him and who I talked to, and he didn't disappoint. He was really good.
You took the words right out of my mouth because he had a tough match with Caden Fink in the first round. That's not an easy match, right? And then in major in the semifinals, and then Kolb in the finals. I mean, that's not an easy road. There's not a lot of guys that can say they can go through that type of bracket as a freshman in your first tournament.
Right, and Caden Fink from Montgomery, I think you had him 22, 23 in the state rankings last week. He's a guy I really like, and Denny Hare's done a great job with that program. in his first year this year, and I think he's helped Caden kind of turn a corner a little bit, and he's right there with those guys. Caden Major from Warrior Run, Mason Barvitsky, Ethan Kolb, he's been right there. So I wasn't surprised that he gave Mason a good match, but it's fun when you see freshmen make those runs, and then you start thinking about what's going to come down the road, and there's a good chance Mason and Caden are battling each other for a couple of years. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, and Eric brought it to our attention, Cole Bisco, right? A junior now, state runner-up. I think 126 may have been the deepest bracket of the weekend. I mean, and here's the other thing I took notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but Gable Strickland is really separating himself. I mean, he's really wrestling well. He beats Bisco 6-1. He beats Scott Johnson, who had just beat Gabe Gramley from Mifflinburg. He beats him 9-4 in the finals. So you have the depth where Cole Bisco, a guy who's in the state finals, finishes 4th in that bracket at the district tournament, and Gable Strickland, he looked pretty good. So, I mean, 126 had to be absolutely bananas to you.
So that's the one I was looking forward to coming in, just because the top level talent is as good in that weight class as any weight class, I'm going to say, in the state. 4 of those kids, Gabe Gramley, Gable Strickland, Cole Bisco, Scott Johnson, all ranked in the top 6 of your rankings.
Yeah.
In AA, that is the only ranking that has 4 kids from one district in the top 6, which is just mind-blowing when you think about how good the talent is in Pennsylvania. So I have some notes on my laptop that I'm going to tweet out later tonight that I kind of took away from the district tournament. Number 1 on that list is I'm never doubting Gable Strickland again, because I actually picked Gabe Gramley to win it. I really like the way Gabe's been wrestling. And he got beat in the semifinals by Scott Johnson, who's been wrestling really well here the last couple of weeks. But I had heard Gable Strickland had banged up his shoulder. His coach, BJ Wise, even said after the tournament that he had banged up his shoulder. It didn't look like it. Other than the wrap on his shoulder, he didn't look like it. He is separating himself from the pack. And when you consider who that pack is, that's pretty eye-opening.
It's completely eye-opening because, I mean, these are guys that are very high-quality wrestlers. I mean, Cole Bisco, we saw him at True Power. I mean, he's a stud. And, looking at all these guys, Greg Ramley, state medalist, I can't imagine going into a bracket like that. Another one that kind of caught my attention, and obviously because he's super good, but Connor Hare from Montgomery. You know how good he is as a freshman.
Yeah.
In fact, Eric texted me and he was like, "Hey, who was this guy? Did we have him on our top incoming freshman?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we did. He was high up there." And he just blows people away.
Connor's a kid I've known since he was in like 5th grade, because his dad Denny coaches at Montgomery now. He's been at Muncie he was at Muncie from like 2008 on. So I've known Connor, and I've been telling Denny all along, I'm like, don't move. If you're thinking about don't take another job. I was like, I've been waiting 10 years to watch these kids. Do not leave now. And he's got a little brother, Brant, who's in 7th grade. But the thing I've been waiting with Connor is for that matchup, or that day where he was really going to be tested. He has one loss this year to Nate Higley. It was a 2-1 ultimate tiebreaker match, which was fantastic. The scrambles in it were absolutely phenomenal. And that was kind of the moment where you're like, all right, this kid's legit. Like, this is what he's capable of. But he rolled through the sectional tournament. Last week Saturday he got 2 ranked kids in Ian Yoder and Hayden Ward. He pins Hayden Ward in the final in 32 seconds as they got rolling around. I mean, like, he's so solid. Like, he just doesn't make mistakes. And if you don't make mistakes and you have a good sense of technique, you're going to be pretty good.
And he's a freshman. And he's
he's so seasoned. Like, they do so much off-season wrestling, like all the top-tier kids do. And Denny takes him everywhere he can around the country to go wrestle. I think he wrestled Super 32 this year. I mean, like, he's battle tested. Like, this is not eye-opening. He's been in way bigger tournaments than the District 4 tournament at the Magic Dome in Williamsport, which is a great place, but it's not Fargo. He's been everywhere. So it's just fun. It's fun to actually see these kids get here as freshmen and then compete and perform.
Mitch, you brought up Nathan Higley, and that was another one that I wanted to ask about, because that was a kind of an eye-opening for me too. The 11-1 victory over Patrick Edmondson. I mean, that had to be a pretty impressive performance out of him.
Yeah, it really was. And Nate's a kid I really like, and I think he kind of flies under the radar a little bit, even though he's a 2-time state place winner.
Right.
He was a 4th place last year. Sullivan County doesn't go to a bunch of big tournaments. They don't go to many tournaments at all. He doesn't get many matches throughout the year. So I never know, even though he's in my coverage area and, I talk to him all the time, and you just don't know where he is until he gets on a stage like this. But the physicality that he wrestled with yesterday, the explosiveness that he wrestled with yesterday is everything you expect to see from a kid who just committed to wrestle for Frank Beasley at George Mason. I mean, he is every bit the kid that we think he is. We just don't get to see it until the postseason.
And Eric, you should remember him. You saw him at True Power, or I'm not True Power, the Surge. You saw him at the Surge.
Yeah, the Surge. Yeah.
He was wrestling tough there, a little hard. He was wrestling really hard, and had to be told by the ref, like, hey, one more time of that, and you're out of here. He's a brawler, right? And Frank Beasley down at George Mason, he just committed 3 days ago, I think it was.
It was Thursday or Friday. Yeah.
So that probably was a huge relief off of him. I want to go up to 160 because Avery Bassett, another guy who's going to George Mason, man, he's looked good all season. I mean, we saw him at the Midwinter Mayhem. He beat Cole Spencer there. He comes out Tech Falls, Ty Nixon from Muncie. Nolan Lear from Benton is just, I mean, again, another guy we saw at the Surge, but just a horse, man. And he beats Garrett Garcia, another Garcia, go figure. But then he beats Avery Bassett 3-2. What was that match like, Mitch? Because that had to have been a good one.
Nolan Lear's matches are all kind of the same when he's going up against good kids. And we saw him so much last year against Gavin Garcia in the postseason. Shooting into him is like shooting into a brick wall. I mean, he's such a well put together kid. He doesn't let you on his legs. He doesn't let you touch his legs. And a kid like Avery Bassett just wants to go and get his offense firing. And he can get it firing on almost anybody. But Nolan Lear just knows how to slow down the match to get it to the pace that he wants. And he wants to execute that one shot. He's not afraid to be in a tight match, and he'll win that tight match. And you'll see when he's in these – go look at his results last year from Gavin Garcia. They're all 3-2, 2-1, 3-1, 4-3. Like, he's not afraid to be in these matches. He's not afraid to make it a one takedown match because he's confident he's the one that's going to get the takedown.
Right. Yeah, and that clearly shows because, I mean, like you said, he's been able to come out on top of those close matches, and clearly a guy like Avery Bassett, who I mean, we've just all been super impressed with him. I have a feeling we're probably going to see that at least a couple more times potentially, and I want to also go up to 189. Wesley Barnes falls to Cale Krebs in the finals 5-0. Barnes was tested by Hayden Packer from Jersey Shore in the semifinals 5-3 in sudden victory. Packer's one of those guys where he was known coming in, right? Younger brother, and he's coming in, and he pushed Barnes, who was undefeated at the time. What do you like about 189? And has Krebs really kind of just separated himself from the rest of the pack there?
Yeah, this match was more about what Cale Krebs did right than anything Wes Barnes did wrong. Wes Barnes had a game plan. He wasn't going to open up. He wasn't going to give an opportunity for Cale Krebs to get in on his shots, and Cale was going to let him sit there. If you watch the video, Wes is on a knee a whole lot of time. The only thing he wanted to do was reach up and get a snap, see if he could get Cale off balance, and he just never got him off balance. And Cale waited for his opportunities when he could sneak in to get a shot. And this match, to me, I think is one, you talk about Avery and Nolan maybe seeing it a couple weeks. This is one I think we might see this week, maybe in super regionals again, maybe even in Hershey again in the finals, because I think these guys are both that good. But the way Cale has separated himself from the field, go look at his Powerade results. Yeah. I mean, 8-0 over Trent Schulteis, and he pinned him twice last year. The Kutchember kid, he beat him, I think, 8-3. There was another kid who was a AAA sixth that he won 9-1. Krebs has really kind of separated himself from the field, and I wanted to see this matchup just to see if Wes could keep it close. And Wes did keep it close, but it was clear he didn't want to get real active, real physical with it. He didn't want to go underneath Cale, and they may have to rethink that plan a little bit. They may have to open up to try and see if they can score points and see what happens there. But like I said, I think Cale has really just separated himself from the field.
All right, looking ahead, we've got regions and super regions coming up here. District 4 meets up with District 2 for the region, and then they jump in with the Southeast region. Now, I haven't really taking a hard look at the District 3 AA results because they just came out a little bit ago before we went on the air. District 4, for how deep they are, I think they could put a lot through. Now they get 5 into the regional tournament. What is the outlook that you see for these District 4 wrestlers, especially these top end towns? We know we're going to lose some of those, those middle tier guys, like you said, even state qualifiers that we're not going to see even make it out of that region tournament. You got to be packing your bags for Hershey now, because there's going to be a lot of good wrestling that you're going to have to cover. Those long nights at the Giant Center are going to continue on for you, Mitch, in a couple weeks.
Yeah, but I like those long nights, man. I mean, that's what makes this thing so fun, so we talked about 126. Let's think about 126 this week. Only 3 guys are getting out of that regional at 126. So Strickland, Gramley, Johnson, Bisco, one of those guys is not getting to the super regional. And then when you go to the super regional, Evan Mag, Notre Dame Green Pond, he's going to be thrown into that mix too. I mean, that's the weight class to watch over the next couple weeks, just to see how that's going to shape. I mean, they are wrestling a state tournament this week in the regional tournament, not even to get to Hershey, to get to Pottsville for the super region. That's what makes this so much fun. And I really think in this year that the weird year that it is, the super region is going to be a lot of fun, because everything is weird, everything is different. So let's see what happens. I mean, you're really condensing the talent. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, what happens this week? I don't know. I try to pick it every week. I end up looking like an idiot every week, and that's okay, because somebody's got to do it. But I just can't wait to sit and watch it. I really can't.
Well, your coverage of District 4 this year has been phenomenal. We love and appreciate everything that you're doing. Without you, we would be in the dark in a lot of these different things. So we appreciate that. I know you've been having long days, right? I know you have had long days, but hey, like you said, that's what we do. And I tell Frank Diamond, it's okay. Like we had to go to the second string guy here for tonight. I'm wearing the District 4 Wrestling Pick shirt. I did it for you, Mitch. So you made fun of me last time you were on here, said I had a ponytail or something. So
I just said there wasn't proof that there wasn't a ponytail. That's all I said. We know.
I still love that urban legend.
We know Eric doesn't have one, so I gotta aim the other way. So.
All right. Well, hey, Mitch, we won't keep you all night. I'm sure we could keep you all night, talk District 4 wrestling, but we won't keep you. We appreciate your time here tonight, and continue doing great things for wrestling. So appreciate you stopping in.
Hey, I appreciate the work you guys do. Keep it up. It's a lot of fun, man.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. All right, Mitch Ruber, always a great time talking to him. Eric, District 4 was very, very deep, but there's going to be a lot of other big matches and big name guys that aren't making it out of those regional tournaments and going on to the super region. Look at the District 11 brackets if you can, Eric. I don't know if you can pull them up or not out of AAA. So I was able to pull some up while we were talking. There was some really big time matches that happened there. Charlie Bunton from Nazareth, he wrestled Cale McIntyre from Becca. The top 5 matchup there, 2-1. Dante Frenzy, he just barely survives Javian DeLone from Liberty 6-4. Look at where was it? Yeah, Drew Cleary beating Isaiah Reinhardt. Those two have battled back and forth time and time again. And Dom Falcone from Easton beats Sonny Sasso 5-2 at 172. Sean Kinney of Nazareth at heavyweight, he was one of our top incoming freshmen. He pins Sebastian Camus from Stroudsburg in the finals as a freshman. That was his first action of the year. So we've looked at District 4 and we see these guys with like 30 matches. But District 11, I think, is kind of like a sleeping giant because we haven't really seen any of these guys. Like I didn't know what Nazareth's lineup was going to look like, or even Becca's lineup.
Yeah, you got Drew Cleary with a 1-0 record as the top seed there.
Absolutely. Dante Frenzy drops from 132 to 120. Beats out a very, very tough teammate to even get there. So, I mean, I feel like we haven't even been truly indoctrined with the talent that is of District 11. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean it's been such a bizarre year, and then whenever you don't have the dual meets there, the state duels or district duels there, that you just hand the crown to Becca. I mean, it's so bizarre because that's one of the great things about wrestling in Pennsylvania is District 11 and the competition there and the rivalries and, just the top 5 matchups night in and night out that you get there. And we were really deprived of that this season. It's been almost non-existent, when Nazareth has one match.
Yeah.
It's not what we're used to. It's not what we expect, and it's really unfortunate for those kids on that team and those fans out there. But at least we're getting the district tournament now, and we're getting to see these matchups. So they might not have 30 wins next to their name, but that when you're seeing a Nazareth guy across from you, that you're in for a battle.
Yeah, I mean, Nazareth obviously wrestled really well. They won the title. They had 3 champions in a row, or actually they had Bunting at 13, but then they had Drew Cleary at 189, Chase Levy at 215, and Sean Kinney at heavyweight. So they're going to be bringing a lot of guys into the Northeast Regional Tournament here coming up when they meet up with District 2 and District 12. I just really... looking at the super regional rankings, and I'm working on those to kind of paint a picture of who's still alive and who should we expect to see in those super regional rounds to get to this state tournament, as Mitch said. I mean, a lot of these districts are wrestling basically a state tournament round in their district tournament, right? So, I mean, it's incredible to think about that.
Yeah, and I want to go back for a second. I mean, how good is Mitch Rupert? That was a phenomenal interview. I mean, that guy, District 4 people, you got to get that guy a raise because he could be doing that job at a higher level. I mean, he has the talent that he could be on ESPN talking about a sport like that. I mean, he had notes on everything. He's breaking down strategy. He's giving you scores from Powerade and results from last year. I mean, Mitch Rupert is phenomenal.
The dude's a stud. I agree with you. I mean, anytime I need anything from anybody out that way, like he's that guy to go to, and I agree with you. Hey, maybe he needs to come join PA Power because, man, he would be.
Yeah, he was giving me a little bit of a complex. Honestly, I'm like, man, I'm not as good as he is. He's much better at this than I am.
Oh, stop it, Eric. You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. I want to switch gears over to District 3 AA because we just got those brackets in. I did forward them to you, Eric, so you should have those. But District 3 held their tournament here today. Devin Jackson from West Perry, he took 3rd at 113. Dylan Reinert from Brandywine Heights actually won it. He's undefeated. He's a junior. Jackson, of course, is who we saw last year take 4th in the state last year at 106 pounds. He loses to Reinert 2-1 in the semifinals. I thought that was a big result for him. Hamburg had a slew of their wrestlers. You got the Gimbor twins. You've got, they're I feel like they've been around forever. Well, first, Levi Haynes dominated 16-6 over Noah Frack, who's a state medalist, undefeated coming into that match. Levi Haynes, I think, is just on a completely different level. I would love to see him and Connor Hare go at it, but Connor dropped to 38, and now Nathan Higley, kind of looks like could be potentially that guy to push Levi. But Levi is really wrestling well. Andrew Christie, who is at Bishop McDevitt now, he was at New Oxford last year, was a state qualifier. We saw him at the Surge tournament in the finals. He lost to Mason Gibson at the Surge. Dalton Gimber, he wins 152, and Bailey Gimber wins 160. Brant Mason makes it 3 in a row for Hamburg. He wins 172 with a fall. And 189, it was from West Perry is Brad Morrison. He won a 3-1 sudden victory win over Bryce Enders from Halifax, who's very tough. So I look at District 3, Eric, and kind of, you look at who can hang with because I'm looking at the super region. So you have District 3, right, who's got some good top-end talent, maybe some guys that are underneath the radar, right? Bullion Springs has some guys that not a lot of people are going to know, but I think that they can push the pace. They always wrestle really tough. But then you tie in to District 4, right? And then you throw in District 11, right? You throw in those Notre Dame Green Ponds, the Saucon Valleys, the Lehigh Valley. I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. You're going to have some really just high-end guys between all these districts, right? It's a casserole of just talent. And District 1 in AA is not too bad. Conwell Egan has a solid team. Faith Christian Academy has some really big studs. So you throw that all together, I don't even know what to expect really out of this this region, when we were talking with Mitch about the District 4 and how they could kind of run away with things, especially going into the regional tournament against District 2. I mean, it's going to be tough to hang with them, but I think you combine District 11 and 3, there's going to be a lot of guys there that are vying for top spots, and there's going to be some guys that surprise us too.
Well, and I know we talked about this, from the outset whenever we kind of saw the revised format that we were going to have for this postseason and how things were going to kind of shake out with 8-man brackets and reduced qualifiers and super regions and all that stuff. And I mean, there's no doubt it sucks for the kids. It sucks that they don't have the fans there that they would normally have, that they don't get the number of qualifying spots. So quality guys are getting left behind. I mean, the whole thing sucks. But the one positive that I take out of it is, man, these tournaments are going to be fun because you've got just crazy matchups with a lot on the line right away. I mean, we're getting right to it. As we talked about before, these quarterfinal matchups are going to be bananas. And then you're looking at it and you're like, okay, well, we're not taking as many guys this year. So every match is of critical importance here. You've got to win that first one because you don't want to be in that meat grinder of the consolations down there and trying to come back through that. And so in a lot of ways, yeah, this is awful and I hate it. But from a fan perspective and looking at these matchups, man, it gets the juices going.
It really does get the juices flowing. And, we are fortunate to have a lot of, good wrestling in these pockets, but also when you combine these pockets, right? You have these,
right.
these
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
here, one there. Now it's like, man, like, could you imagine all these, you look at 152 in AAA, between Panero Johnson, Jared Kessler, AHR, Rocco Welsh, these are just, this is before the state tournament, which is incredible.
Well, and one of the other things is that you're seeing all this, and in a normal year, a lot of these guys might have met up at a tournament over here or, something in a different region. But there have been so few individual tournaments that we have no idea. We haven't seen these matchups this year that we might have seen in another year. So, I mean, you're really looking at this and saying, well, I don't know what's going to happen. We haven't seen these guys meet in years, if at all. So, it's completely different this year.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. We really haven't, a lot of this competition has been within these confined spaces and not wrestling really outside of this. So, Powerade, of course, these big tournaments that we see, Escape the Rock, the Trojan Wars, all these different tournaments that you have, they're not happening. So we're not seeing that interstate, even outside of the state competition where you can say, okay, these are where the guys are. This is where they are in the chopping block. It's almost like we're starting a new season, essentially, with a clean slate where you're just having just barn burner after barn burner after barn burner. It's hard to keep up with, but we're trying. I feel like I feel schizophrenic because I'm like going around and like, oh, look at this where it's off. No, look at that one. And I'm going to do it again right now. So District 3 AAA, they had their section tournaments, 4 sections. Top 2 go on to the District 3 tournament, which is a self-contained region. If you need an explanation, go back and watch our last emergency power hour where we talked about all those different things. But I want to point to a couple of results from over the weekend. Manheim Township has 2 studs. They're twins, Caden and Camden Williams. Both of them are undefeated. Caden's at 106, 18-0, 3 falls, 5 tech falls, 4 major decisions, 4 decisions on his year. Camden Williams, 14-0, 11 falls, 2 tech falls, 1 major decision. These two have absolutely been dominating. I think Caden and Camden are going to be 2 guys that are challenging to get to the top of the podium in Hershey. I really do. I think Caden is at 106, possesses all the talent. He's ranked in the nation. I think Camden, 113 got a little bit deeper because Jacob Van D from Cathedral Prep dropped to 113. Vinny Kilkiri, who he lost to in the state finals, is there. That was a wild overtime match. Those two are very tight. Aiden Lewis from Cedar Cliff, he dropped to 113. He was a state finalist last year at 113 to Ethan Bergnick. So you've got a lot of talent here. Then you throw in Camden Williams. I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty deep weight class here, Eric. And, we're kind of seeing that, with all the different, changes in the setups of the postseason. It's like, okay, how are they going to seed this? You saw with Mason Gibson seeded 3rd at the District 6 tournament, and you're like, come on, like, are you serious? He tech falls his way through the entire tournament. Finally, he gets the number 1 seed, but it's these early round matchups are going to be very critical for moving on and advancing on, right?
Yeah.
And you heard about Noah Teeter, and like you lose that early round matchup, and now all of a sudden, instead of getting a favorable draw, now you get a state finalist, a state champion in that first round. So it's very critical moving forward where you are in that bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, that's going to be a fun weight class to watch, that 113, because as you said, Camden Williams is a guy that can really make some noise there, but there's some truly battle tested guys when you're talking Kilcarry and Van D, and, it's just going to be a loaded weight class. So I'm really excited for this weekend. Like, I'm looking forward to it already. I'm already looking at brackets and being like, man, this is going to be a phenomenal matchup here. And, it's just like I said, in a lot of ways, it all sucks and it's awful, but I'm trying to take the positive out of it, that, man, there's going to be some fun wrestling over one day. It's not going to be split over the 2 days and, some guys that don't quite belong there. You're going to get a lot of guys that are really good in one bracket going from right away in the morning.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. I mean, there's not going to be many, easy matches. I mean, you look at the super regional rankings and, I'd say 90% of the guys that we have in there are all ranked in the state, by virtue of because again, you got to look at the numbers, right? The numbers are, you only have a certain amount that go forward from District 11. Then you throw in District 2 and District 12. And, there are going to be some brackets where, better guys are sitting at home because they're in a tougher district, but there's still, I mean, there's no real easy matches. District 6, Pearson Manville from State College beat Jude Swisher in the finals. Now, that was a rematch. They wrestled in the Big 8 tournament, and Jude won that match. He loses this time. Jude comes in as the number 2 ranked guy in the state. Pearson was 6, so Pearson's a freshman. These two are very close. They wrestle at M2 Training Center together. They know each other well. I could definitely see that one happening a couple times. And Pearson Manville, again, State College, maybe not seeing a whole heck of a lot of them, and Manville's haven't wrestled a ton. I don't know necessarily if Dylan Chappell and is going to be threatened by any of those, or Colton Stone King, but Jude, we saw him at True Power and he wrestled really, really well. So I would have to assume Pearson's probably wrestling pretty tough too. Yeah.
If you can get a win over Swisher, I mean, that's pretty big in my book, whenever you can beat Jude Swisher.
All right, another big name guy that you love that I think is incredible is Nate Schoen from Selinsgrove. So this past weekend, people were talking to me about between Isaiah Vance and Billy McChesney from Greensburg-Salem. That's 2 and 3 in the state. McChesney beats Vance for the first time in like 5 years. He beats Vance in the sectional tournament. Nate Schoen is sitting pretty. He's 32-0. Has the most wins of anyone in AAA, 32-0. 7 falls, 13 tech falls, and 1 major decision. He got a fall in the finals over a fellow state medalist, Oliver Billot from Clearfield. He pins him in the finals. Is Nate Schoen on a mission or what? I mean,
Has Nate Schoen ever not been on a mission?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Nate Schoen is awesome. Nate Schoen is one of my favorite kids that, he's not in my coverage area, but I did cover him for another newspaper, and he's just so fun to watch. I mean, that you talk about a guy who's going to let it fly. I mean, Nate Schoen is the epitome of that. There is no holding back with Nate Schoen. Like, I saw him shake off a broken finger. Literally, he's like, oh yeah, we'll just throw that tape off. It's bothering me. I'm going to go ahead and wrestle. The guy's wrestled on blown out knees. I mean, I'm not sure that Nate Schoen is human. He's just he's got an incredible pain tolerance and just kind of an adrenaline junkie, and he's just going to go and go hard for as long as he needs to get a W.
Yeah, I still tell the story about what you said about how he, dislocated his finger, had some tape on it. He's like, throws it off. He's like, I don't really need this. And even before True Power, because he was going to wrestle Nick Feldman in True Power, and I don't know, he tore something and something that should put you out for a while. And he's like, I still think I can wrestle. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah, this is a preseason match. Don't hurt yourself.
Right. I mean, it's sure, I want you there, but I mean, come on. You don't need to do that. All right, before we sign off, another big match that I saw was District 9, and this was Weston Pisarcek from Brockway, freshman. He beats Caden Walter, a senior from Brookville, who's a state medalist last year. He was 6th in the state. He beat him in the District 9 finals 5-1. Caden Walter was number 2 in the state behind Wenzel. going into this weekend. Louis Gill from Hickory, he falls to Hunter Robeson from Sagertown. He's a junior, and he's a guy who, as a freshman, was a state qualifier, was ineligible last year. He's back down to 106. So I look at this top. You got Landon Bainey as well from West Branch. You got Hunter Robeson, Louis Gill, Walter. But now you throw in Weston Pisarczyk from Brockway. Things can get pretty messy when we go to the West Super Region. There's going to be a lot of guys there fighting in for a spot, and then throw in guys like Cooper Hornack from Burrell as well. Oof. I wouldn't want to be in that bracket.
I'm glad I'm not the one doing the Super Regional rankings.
Yeah, well, good luck to me, I guess. All right, Eric. So we didn't really touch on District 7 too much, and that's because we are going to do a war up on the Whippeal with Greg and I here in a half hour, 7:30. We're going to start a war up podcast. I'll change my shirt to make it look like I'm on a different show. We're gonna talk about the Whippeal. We're gonna have Ian Oswald on, a 4-time Whippeal champion. We're gonna have John Altieri, who won a massive 145-pound sectional tournament. So I appreciate you, Mitch Rupert, coming on. I agree with you, Eric. I think he should be at ESPN right now. But for those who have him in Williamsport, take care of him, because man, he's awesome, and I appreciate him taking some time out to talk to us here today. So, Eric, any closing thoughts for you?
No, I just can't wait, man. Saturday can't come soon enough for me. I'm excited for it. I'm checking out all of these regional pairings and excited to see what we have coming up.
I really screwed this up, not playing in this pregnancy, right? Because I'm probably not going to see much of anything in the next couple weeks. And actually, before the show, my wife, I believe, was having a contraction, so I was like, I'm going to go downstairs and
you better check on her between podcasts.
I'm going.
So
I'm going to go check
there
on my wife.
may be a war up coming up, or there may not be
a war up, or if I can do a war up from the hospital, maybe. I don't know.
You're going to be on the cell phone on the way to the hospital, like.
Yeah, I won't do that. All right. Well,
breathing exercises and.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be doing that. Shout out Mitch Rupert. Appreciate your time. Eric, it was good talking to you, and we'll talk to you very soon. Be on the lookout for rankings. Updated rankings are coming out very, very soon. We got a lot of good stuff to give you, so be on the lookout for that. And regional brackets are being established as we speak. There's already a lot of them out there, so check with PAWrestling.com. Mike Lester and his team do a great job. Make sure you check out the brackets there. So, all right, Eric, I'll talk to you soon.